how to be profitable in 2024.
Marketing has really changed.
That there is a path to a career within our practices.
Change your website geared more towards them.
The multi-generational communication conflicts.
People aren't coming to you because you're an in-network provider. They're coming to you because they want a beautiful smile.
This is truly what's on the mind of orthodontists.
You know, having that high level of service.
This day and age, it's all about differentiating yourself.
So happy to be here.
Oliver, thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Devin.
We've got a series of questions we're going to ask, and I cannot wait. I guess when I entered the industry and we were talking about marketing stuff, and people always said, you got to talk to Oliver. And so for me to sit here and be able to talk to you about this stuff is pretty exciting for me. So thank you for talking through this. But the first question that we're asking everybody is, what would you say is on the mind of every orthodontist that they don't have a solution for?
Well, right now, it's a little bit of market and demand. We're looking at the first time in recorded history where we've seen flat and declining starts in the orthodontic space in terms of patients electing for treatment. And so I would characterize the concerns being in kind of two branches. You've got your sole proprietor orthodontist who's concerned mainly about starts and therefore declining take-home pay for them. And then you've got the DSO or OSO groups that are not only being impacted by the declining starts with top being crunched because the interest fees that they're paying have virtually doubled from what they were just a few years ago. So that's affecting their valuations on practices, their ability to get funding and lending for business loans to be able to buy more practices. So the activity of consolidation has really gone mostly on pause for a lot of the groups. So those are kind of the two branches of things that we are looking at today.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really great. We all have obstacles. What you kind of pointed out are some obstacles, and a lot of times they're outside of our control. So how can we look these obstacles straight ahead and maybe even lean into them as a way to help find some solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the obstacles that I've been talking about for a long time is the industry, we're so blessed that we have basically total addressable market data, not just for the current year, but really out 10 to 15 years, which is really important because one of the things that I talk about a lot is we have a declining child population. We know that because the birth rates have been declining since 2007, 2008. And so not only are we going to be seeing fewer kids in our practices, but we're going to be seeing fewer kids for the next 10 to 12 years. And so what's important about that is, yes, on the one side, everybody should be doing everything they can to increase their conversion rate for their adolescents and kids. No question, they should be looking at all technologies and solutions to increase their conversion rate for kids. But they also need to take seriously the adult population because we not only need to get better at converting them, we need to get better at attracting them into our practices, because that's honestly, if we're going to continue to grow every year in the 3 to 5% clip that we've been used to growing, it's going to have to come from attracting a population that we have treated well, but not really focused on. So there's a little bit of that. But the other thing that practices can do in a tighter environment, just because your number of starts may be flat or declining, does not mean that your production has to be flat or declining. So yes, we're in an inflationary environment. That means that every business is participating in that, and orthodontic practices should be participating in that. The economy is tight, which means you can't just jack up fees. You need to think about strategically how to increase your fees, but then increase flexibility at the same time to offset that and possibly even increase your conversion rate, right? So we got to think about ways to increase production per patient if we can't control the number of patients who are able to or willing to start right now. So I've just written 3 articles you can find on startmoresmiles.com, but there are 3 articles about how to increase production per patient. One is simply to think about strategically how to increase fees and make sure that you have open choice and flexibility to be able to maximize conversions on those higher fees. Our average practice in the last couple of years has increased their fees 6 to 8%. So it is possible, and there is elasticity for that if you are flexible and if you allow for open choice. So that's number one. Second thing that a lot of practices don't think about, that carriers, insurance carriers, they're a network. There are some carriers in some local areas that are helpful to drive patient volume, but a lot of carriers that advertise that they're helping to drive a lot of starts are not really doing. And so we have tons of data that shows that most practices who are in network do not see a measurable benefit in terms of conversion rate or cap new appointment exams, any of that stuff. What they do have is about $500 lower fee by being in network because they have to have the lower negotiated fees. So getting out of some of the networks and having a good consultant that can help you and guide you on which networks you can stay in or get out of, but that can increase your production per start just by doing that. And it doesn't actually impact the patient very much at all. And then the last part is, if you do have to be in network, a lot of practices don't realize a lot of the tricks of the trade and best practices in terms of maximizing the amount that they can charge a patient, even when they are in network. So a lot of practices, they are told, hey, if my fee is, $5,200, I've negotiated that I can only charge $4,500 for a network. That's what the paper says. What the carrier does not tell you and go out of the way to tell you is that you could also add some things onto the treatment in the way that you itemize the claim, that you can increase your allowable charge to the patient above that negotiated rate. And all of that is additional revenue. So we've done a huge study on that. It is publishing right now, where we see that the average practice can, if they are in network at all, can increase their total blended fees by an average of around $250 to $350. And so that is a pretty large increase. If you think about that, that's a 5 to 7% increase of production per patient that can help offset what is right now, if you're with Orthofy, maybe a 1.5% drop annually in starts. Per Gauge, where they're currently in the 3.5 to 3.7% drop annually in starts. So somewhere in that range, if you're the average practice, you're probably sitting there. And so that increase in production can really be what you need to offset that and even get a little bit more.
Yeah, I think with the orthodontists that I talk to, there's a lot of, oftentimes, I don't want to use the word confusion, but not understanding that whole process, because it is fairly complicated. I think what you're sharing is really helping to kind of demystify some of it, and it makes sense when you lay it out like that.
It's hard. I mean, insurance is hard. I mean, we always comically say at Orthofy, we always say insurance and taking on insurance was the best mistake we ever made. It definitely has brought a lot of practices to us, but it's hard. We are the experts, but it took us a long time to really, understand and to do it as well as we do it today.
I wanted to go back to your comment about the embracing the adult population. I guess from a marketing perspective, I wanted to get your input on that. The average orthodontic practice doesn't necessarily have a hugely sophisticated marketing plan, hugely sophisticated marketing budget. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on how much can an individual practice really move the needle on this whole idea of attracting more adults into the fold?
I mean, the funny thing is they really don't need a lot more external marketing, right? The truth is they are driving their current patient base to their practice. They basically need more and better internal marketing. Just think every parent is an adult target and they're not talking to them. There are so many orthodontists that I've spoken to that tell me the story of, I had a braces or wearing Invisalign, and they asked them, why would you have not come to me for that? And their answer was, well, I just thought you treated kids. Either because the office design and decor, look that way, or because no one ever asked them about it. And so honestly, before I even spent an additional dime on a lot of external marketing, I would make sure that I'm maximizing internal marketing. Now, that said, the other thing that I think people need to think about when it comes to that is limited treatment option. Yes, we're all happy the rain dance that Smile Direct Club, went down. So we have a window, we have a choice. I assure everyone it can be profitable. We have to think about it differently and better. But if we had those options, we could turn a lot more of the patients, a lot more of the prospects that are sitting in our reception area into dollars.